It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts, Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome back into another episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. That is Alan Saunders. How are we feeling, Alan?
I'm feeling really good, Smitty. I'm feeling really good. There was no practice today.
Yep.
You got the news kind of slowed down a little bit. We only wrote like 11 stories today instead of 42. I've spent most of my day working on this new Southside Scoop column that we got going on. I got a graphic for it that looks sick. Here, you want to tease the graphic? Can we do that?
Sure.
If I send you the graphic, can you put it up, or can I put it up? I don't know if I can do that.
You might be able to. I mean, I don't know if you have full access in here. Yeah, or email it to me, not text it to me, because I have to share my screen on here.
See if I can.
I haven't seen this yet either, so this is news to me as well.
No, I can't. You have to email it to you. All right.
Mm-hmm.
We'll do that. But I was, you know what? When we were going off the air yesterday, and it was just me and you talking, and I was saying like how much I just really enjoyed doing this podcast, and like I still do every day. It does not ever feel like work or like hard, or I don't know. I really enjoy it. I'm really thankful for the audience, and it seems like everyone else is really enjoying it too. But like aside of all that, I just really love coming on here talking ball with you and having a lot of fun. So
yeah, likewise. I mean, I've shared that sentiment. I feel like it really came to the forefront, expressing gratitude when we hit that 1 year mark. That's always, kind of was insane to me that it just came so fast. So, I the words of appreciation and gratitude, certainly towards the people that watch or listen to this as well. You with taking the chance with having me as your co-host. I've been doing the podcast stuff for a long time, but never as a daily thing. So that was the one difference with doing this one, but I also still have enjoyed doing it every single day.
I was worried we were going to run out of things to talk about, and we haven't yet. So I think we're probably pretty good.
Yeah. Well, that's the other part too. Like I remember when we were wrapping up last year after we got through there was like the dead period, right? And we were like, are we going to still continue to do this? And we were just like, let's just see how far like newsy stuff can take us. And just, it never stopped. We just kept finding ways to continue to do the podcast, even in the off season. So you guys are a big part of that. So appreciate everybody that watches or listens to this show. With that being said, Alan, there might not have been a lot of news, but it's the timing of the news. Like what are they, the afternoon drive right now? They're trying to screw us all over with this timing. Like
they're just like
these 3 o'clock news dumps.
We're too big, and we're too powerful, and they're trying to put us in our place by making all their news at 4 p.m. So, Steelers announced 8 players that were on the team are back on the practice squad. No surprises, I would say, in the inclusions. The list goes Jonathan Ward, which I reported the other day, Jack Coletto, Rodney Williams, which I actually thought there was a chance they might lose him. I thought he was the best player they got. Jacob Slade, Marcus Haynes, Anthony Averett, Zion Gilbert, Thomas Graham. Did I miss one? No, that's it. That's 8. Not any real surprises in that group to me. Just Jacob Slade, maybe. It's a little surprised by that.
Well, I would say not necessarily surprised by him making it, because I think there's some intrigue there, but just the timing that Marcus Haynes joined the team to them also want to bring him back as well.
I'll tell you what, he looks good. Like I agree that it's unusual for a guy who's only here a week to make the practice squad, but he looks like he can play. I'm okay with this Marcus Haynes addition. I think the bigger surprise, the guy's not on that list, right? Guys I expected to be on this practice squad: Fitzpatrick, John Rhys, Plumlee. I thought they would be on here, and they're not. We'll see. Maybe they get extra. Guys get opportunities elsewhere. Maybe they'll find a spot where they think they have an easier path to the 53-man roster. Maybe they'll find someone's willing to pay them a little more. The Steelers are notoriously a little bit frugal with practice squad salaries compared to some other teams. So I don't know. That's interesting that those guys were not on that list. But it's happened in the years past where guys weren't announced on that sort of first wave, and then they ended up being on the practice squad eventually. And then, of course, the 3 players from outside the organization that we're aware of that they've signed, not on that list yet. My guess is those guys not in Pittsburgh to physically put pen to paper to a contract today. Since the team is not practicing till Monday, no reason for them to get here and spend the whole weekend here just to do a little scribble. That'd be Boston Scott, running back, longtime Philadelphia Eagle, was with the Rams in training camp. Doug Nestor, West Virginia undrafted rookie, was with the Minnesota Vikings. He's a guard and a tackle. And Brandon Johnson, who was a wide receiver, played with the Denver Broncos last year and played with Russell Wilson and is the cousin of Ocho Cinco. There you go.
And the only receiver.
So, yeah, I mean, Quez Watkins was another guy they cut that I thought if he didn't get another opportunity elsewhere, it could be someone they might want to add to the practice squad. I can also see him, looking elsewhere. I didn't think he was necessarily great in training camp here. That's a guy maybe might be looking for a change of scenery. Also was in Philly a long time. I feel like that's something that happens a lot when you're a player that's been in one spot for a long time, then you go somewhere else and get cut. Like a lot of times those guys end up back. If I'm going to be on the practice squad, I want to be back where I was comfortable and not here where things obviously weren't working out. So yeah, that wouldn't surprise me if he signs elsewhere as well.
Yeah, I don't know that I was super surprised by any of the people listed on it. I think it's the number of only the one receiver so far, Brandon Johnson, with no Des Fitzpatrick being added or any of that group being brought back, at least up to this point, and no quarterback. Like John Rhys Plumlee, we just assumed was a shoe-in to be on the practice squad, would have put him in pen, not even pencil, for that spot. But it hasn't happened at least yet.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised Plumlee's not back. I think he will be. I don't know why. He isn't, but yeah, I'd bring him back for sure. Unless they're trying to aim higher. I don't know. There was a lot of quarterbacks cut. Guys like Desmond Ridder and Jaron Hall. And if they are serious about wanting a real fourth quarterback, I think those guys are probably better quarterbacks. I think Plumlee brings something to the table with his athleticism that those guys don't.
Yeah, absolutely. But I was going to ask you, because I probably look at it differently than you do, but did you look at it at all the same way in terms of the numbers there? Like there's only one receiver on here. There's not one quarterback, right? There's not a quarterback at all right now. Like that at all with the way that they construct this?
It's only half the practice squad, so I don't know. Guess we'll wait and see. I mean, they got 11 guys. They're going to sign 5 more at least, maybe 6 more. So, I mean, until I see the whole thing, I don't. I'm a little surprised there's a defensive lineman on here with 8 on the active roster. I think that stands out to me. Little surprised there isn't a tackle on here with only 2 healthy on the eye. We talked about Hakeem Doss, I would have thought, but maybe it doesn't seem like they've so basically this makes it seem like we know that there's 3 coming from the outside, but it seems like the rest of these guys, or most of the rest of these guys, are coming from the outside. So I think that's probably where they're looking. I guess you could call Doug Nestor a tackle. I think he's more of a guard, but we'll see. I think another offensive lineman there.
I agree. And I feel like I've explained this before, but I'm pretty bad at year to year remembering how things go and just the process. And you could probably give more insight into this anyway. But is this normal in terms of doing it like that? Like we had the 3 names early that were veteran players, and then we see the group of 8 today, but there's still 5 spots open. Is that typical where it's kind of in groups like that as opposed to literally everybody at the same time?
Yeah, the last couple of years I've done this where it's been one big group and then some piecemeal additions here and there. This depends on the timing of getting guys into town, where they're coming from, that kind of thing. It's not unusual to do it this way.
Okay. Well, while we are talking about receivers, we don't have to spend too much time on this, but I feel like it makes sense to bring up the name Brandon Aiyuk right now. Maybe even more so than it has in the past, even though people probably have some fatigue with the topic, just because despite that, Alan, it actually is more possible now than when we talked about it in the past and wanted to have it as a topic because it needed to get ugly. You kept, keeping me on a straight path here saying it wasn't quite ugly yet. But now if he's going to be missing practices after the team said that they expect him to be at practice, they've kind of put that thought out there that they could fine him for not doing so. Now we are getting to the point where it is pretty contentious.
Yeah, way more contentious than when Ricky was telling us it was a done deal. It didn't make any sense then. Now it does. Now it is contentious. Now you're seeing real drama between the 49ers and Brandon Aiyuk, and I'm starting to think the Steelers are going to end up with him. I talked a lot about this on the Morning Rush, so sure the audience there is well versed on where I'm thinking, but what are your thoughts? What's kind of been your I feel like most Steelers fans like gave up. They got emotionally disinvested when the process started to take too long. Where are you in this?
You know what's my dad is maybe even I don't want to say he's like the perfect encapsulation of the Steelers fans that we try to like, do this show for really and kind of paint the picture of what's actually going on and not just like what they're hearing. Cause like he'll hear something on the radio and think it's 100% fact and then like come home and ask me about it. And I'll have to be like, slow your roll here. So he was coming home like at the beginning of this month. He's like, I heard we're getting Brandon Aiyuk. That's what they're talking about on 93.7. So I've kind of gone from thinking he was 100% a 49er. There was actually a point where I thought he was going to be traded to either Cleveland or New England. And then thinking that he was going to be a Steeler. Back to thinking he was 100% going to be a 49er. Back to thinking it's about 50-50. And I'd say that's probably where I'm at. Maybe slightly leaning San Francisco, but pretty close to even now. And I don't recall a situation like this. That's why it's just hard for me to like wrap my mind around. I don't know how we got to this point, Alan, because like it just doesn't seem like it should have been like this contentious. And it seems like it was something that could have been avoided had they just been in direct communication, better communication around draft time about the whole situation.
Right. I mean, I think this is a major screw up by the 49ers. Let's say that first. But yeah, I mean, I think I think I'm more than 50-50 that he's going to get traded
towards the Steelers. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll say I don't think it's possible that he goes anywhere else. Besides, like I think it's either San Francisco or Pittsburgh.
Not very likely. Yeah.
But what makes you lean towards the Steelers now? Just like because of obviously
it's getting ugly. I mean, I sat here and said all summer when everyone was like, the Steelers are going to get Brandon Aiyuk. I said, not unless it gets really ugly. It's getting really ugly. Brandon Aiyuk, listen. And the other part is like you talk about like it taking forever is like it taking forever if the 49ers are going to eventually trade him makes all the sense in the world. It taking forever if they're eventually going to buckle and pay him what he wants does not make any sense. Like if there's any chance they're going to eventually pay him what he wants, then they're really stupid because they should have done that 3 weeks ago and got him into training camp. So like, but if they're eventually going to trade him, it taking forever makes a lot of sense. I don't know.
Do you think from his side, he kind of has seen now the way that guys have gone about it in the past? And I'm not saying it's 1-to-1 with Nick Bosa, who showed up like, a couple days before they played the Steelers last year. But saw, okay, the 49ers will sign guys to deals right beforehand. This is a way for me to just, why not take it to the finish line at this point and see if they are willing to change their offer at all, and then ultimately just sign with them anyway.
I don't know. I mean, the Steelers did that with TJ Watt. He signed the Tuesday before the season opener, remember? I mean,
before Buffalo. Yeah.
So these things go down to the wire. I'm not surprised it's taking this long. I'm not sure I should be reading a lot into the length of time it's taken. I think that kind of always expected us to be here, which, by the way, is why I thought this whole thing was like a bad idea. Like, Steelers could have prevented this very easily. They could have a way better wide receiver room with the cap space they have, and it could have been done in free agency a long time ago, and we would have no drama. But what would we talk about
then? That's true. I mean, I'll be honest, like that is part of my thinking too. I know that I said I'm slightly leaning the 49ers, but honestly, like I could talk myself into like, why else would they have operated this way unless Omar was like super confident that this was ultimately going to end up happening? Like
I do think like there was reporting, Chris Halleck from DK Pittsburgh Sports in the middle of training camp reported like Steelers are confident they're going to get one of Brandon Aiyuk. What were the other two names? DK
Metcalf and Tyreek Hill. Yeah, that was
like the other two aren't even remotely available. So like good work there. But like I don't know. I'm also been privy to that confidence. Like when I talk to people on the Steelers, they think this is going to happen. I reported it in the middle of the height of this drama weeks ago that they think they have a deal that's going to eventually get them Brandon Aiyuk, and I still sense that confidence. I don't know. Yeah, it better work, because if it doesn't, it's going to look pretty bad.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, we're at the point where regardless, right? Like one of these sides is going to come out looking very foolish.
Yes, 100%. And that's another reason why people are going to wait until the very last minute, because the loser's going to look really stupid. Like no reason to give people 7 days to talk about it before the first football game.
There was actually a period of time today where the Twitter app was down, not like desktop, but the app. And I said the 49ers should have traded him then when like no one could jump on their phones.
Or that they had traded him and the reaction crashed the app one way or the other. It was cause and effect.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know. But I mean, like I've gotten the same thing from people that I've talked to in terms of the optimism, like the person that instilled the confidence in like you're talking about. Like you mentioned Ricky, but there was for a reason, a good reason that on the 7th of this month, there was a lot of people that thought that there was a deal that was done or close to. There was a lot of confidence coming from the Steelers building about this trade being close to completion at that point. It obviously didn't happen.
7th.
Here we are 3 weeks later.
That was the 7th. Yeah. It's been 84 years meme.
Yeah, it was the 7th, and the only reason I remember that 8-7 Sidney Crosby. A lot of people thought that was going to be Crosby Day as well. Yeah. But obviously wasn't for either of those two things. But you know what I started off talking about this topic with is it's just funny to me because a lot of people have now soured on the conversation, but it's actually never been more possible for it to actually happen.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, we can kind of turn our attention away from that now and get to some questions from the YouTube. Ted brought up a question, but honestly, Ted, I was debating if we should even read your question on here because you spelled my name with a K. I appreciate that you love the show, but Ted Dishman says, Alan and Zach love the show. The question is actually Zach with a K. There's a question with a K. How do you feel about that, by the way?
It doesn't bother me. I just like picking on you because I know it bothers you. I'm Zachary for the people that don't know, and it's on the screen right now if you are watching. I have a friend, Zach, that's just Zac. And then Zach White, who's our Duquesne beat writer at Pittsburgh Sports Now, goes by just Zac.
Okay. You know, maybe I should just cut that H off and join the cool guys club. But either way, Ted, we appreciate you.
I think you should add letters. I think you should
be like Isaiah. How Isaiah Loudermilk has like a
double H. If Isaiah Loudermilk like has a breakout season, I think you should go by Zach with 2 H's. Did I ever tell you that? So when he first got to the Steelers, Isaiah Buggs was also on the defensive line, and 2 Isaiahs out of 8 guys. And Carl Dunbar used to call him 2H. That was his nickname. Because there was 2. There was Isaiah, and then there was 2H. That was his nickname.
I'd never had heard that, but I'm willing to do it. Like I shaved to just a mustache, just in the support of Arthur Smith. So like I'm not against all of a sudden adding a second H to the end of my name.
And there's in Chicago Bears defensive tackle Zach Pickens is 2 C's. Zacch.
Yeah. That's very
also he's Zach. I don't even know how to pronounce that. Zacchaeus. His real name is Zaccheaus.
Okay.
But we talked yesterday about full government names. I wanted to bring up, before we are getting to Ted's question, I promise. I was just doing my job today and I came across the full government name of Darius Rush. Darius Jaloid Rush. How do you feel about that?
I love it. Honestly, like I know that there were some people that thought he'd be a surprise cut. This is the reason he wasn't. And I'm very excited about his 2024 season now.
Spoiler again, in addition to our graphic, which I did email you.
I'm gonna pull it up at the end here.
Darius Rush is in this week's Southside Scoop, featured extensively about his cut down day.
There you go. A tease for the Southside Scoop. So be sure to go check that out. Anyways, Ted, after all that, he basically, well, hey, listen, it was a long question as well. So,
we're not reading all this. Sorry.
What exactly does investing in the defense get you? That's basically what his question is here. Talks about them adding an all-pro at inside linebacker, potential stars basically at every level. But the team's outcome hasn't moved. The needle hasn't been moved even with them doing so.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question. So it's sort of like this. Everybody gets the same amount of money to spend and the same amount of draft picks to use. And everybody needs roughly the same things. And some of those things are very scarce. There just are not enough really good quarterbacks. Every team wants one, and there's about 4 in the NFL right now where their team feels great about the quarterback position. If you don't have Lamar, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, or Patrick Mahomes, you're probably unsettled about your quarterback position at least a little bit. Either you're not that happy with the guy, or you probably feel like you're paying the guy too much, like Tua and Jordan Love, right? Those are the other options besides those 4. And so could the Steelers have this offseason gone out and signed Kirk Cousins and paid him too much? Let's be honest, the Falcons paid him too much. The Steelers would have had to pay him too much. Instead of getting Dante Jackson and Patrick Queen and Deshaun Elliott and, adding to their defense. Yeah, they could have. And I think it's just comes down to, if you can't get the scarce thing, like Kirk Cousins is not one of those 4 quarterbacks. He's just pretty good, and he's a lot of money. If you can't get the scarce thing, is it worth spending your money trying to find it and failing, or doing something else that you're more sure will be productive? I think that's the question. And so I think investing in the defense raises your floor. It keeps your team competitive. Defense does win games. Like there's no question about it. Does it win you Super Bowls? I don't think so. But winning games is an important part of winning Super Bowls. It gives you a good framework for, hey, what happens if Lamar Jackson gets hurt? Lamar Jackson gets hurt all the time. Why are the Ravens still good? Because they have a great defense most of the time. And so, it gives you that sort of buffer. The other part of the Steelers' investment in defense overall is just weirdly cyclical, where all their young players are on offense and all their most experienced players are on defense. But, I think that's basically what you get by investing in defense. You get a raised floor, and you get injury protection for your quarterback, and you get the chance to win some close games. And, for the teams that don't have what they're looking for at quarterback, it's probably a better use of your money than overpaying Kirk Cousins or using high draft picks on Bo Nix. These are moves that most people can see from the outside are bad and not going to work that well. And that's really your only alternative in terms of spending that money. So why not spend it on defense?
As you were talking there, it kind of reminded me too, not that they're like a super highly paid defense. We actually just saw them lose a key member because they couldn't afford to keep him around. But look at the Chiefs defense last year too. Like, that's the team that ended up winning the Super Bowl. I know they have Patrick Mahomes, but there was a point in time there and for most of the season where the defense was actually outperforming the offense. Now, at the end of the day, when you have a guy like Patrick Mahomes to make plays down the stretch, obviously he was able to do so, especially in the Super Bowl. But you kind of wonder, like, what if they didn't have the defense that they did last year? Would they have still been able to stay afloat?
The 49ers have the 6th most expensive defense.
And it's probably going to get more expensive.
Yeah. So,
both of their corners are set to hit free agency next year.
Yeah. So, I don't think there's this. Packers have the 2nd most. They're a playoff team. So, I just think the Steelers did not have a quarterback, a difference maker quarterback available to them. And that's why their outlook is not going to change substantially. So given that, what do? Do you take wild swings at small percentages of getting that anyway? Or do you shore up the other areas of their team where you feel like you can actually make a difference? And I think that's what they did. I think, it's and you sign those guys and you build up your team. And then when you do get the hope is that when you do get the quarterback, that'll be the last piece. Like everything else will be together. Remember when the Steelers got Ben Roethlisberger? They already had a good team. They just plugged a young, good quarterback into a good team and won a whole bunch of games the first year and won a Super Bowl the second year. That's kind of the idea, is that you're just there waiting to put that last piece in if everything else is in good place.
Yeah.
But when we look at Miami, Miami has a great offense and terrible defense, and they're not very good. You can't just ignore defense because quarterback matters more than everything else.
Absolutely. And, just one man's opinion, not saying that I'm right or wrong on this, but largely I've agreed with the path that the Steelers are trying to go down here. Obviously, they got to figure out the quarterback position. Who knows if they will, other than the wide receiver spot. I think that's the one thing that I've said. I can't get on. I can't figure out what the plan was there. I haven't been able to align myself. Now, if they land Brandon Aiyuk, and that was somehow them knowing that was going to happen all along, I've already tipped my cap several times to Omar Khan, but it will have to happen again.
Yeah. I think the wide receiver position has certainly been an outlier here. But I think I like the moves this offseason. I think it was a good plan, and the guys on defense that are older are going to go away eventually, and that's when younger offensive linemen that have been drafted in the last 2 years are going to start to get paid, and it's going to cycle the other way. They're going to have young guys on defense then. So just the way things go.
Absolutely. One more question I wanted to get to, because I thought this was kind of interesting. I was going a little bit down here through. So this was a couple days ago that this was asked, but thought it was interesting. I feel like this is a recurring person. Berg sports fan.
We've had them before.
Practice squad elevations. He said, you guys do a good job, Alan specifically, they didn't say this, but I'll say this. Alan specifically does a good job at covering the roles and kind of putting them into perspective for casual fans. So if this has been covered already, I'm sorry. But why is there a restriction on the number of elevations from a practice squad throughout a season?
Oh, so you can't stash a good player there. That's the reason. If you want to use a guy multiple times, then you have to bring him up to was it more than 3? I think it is
3.
Then you have to bring him up to the active roster. And so teams can't use the practice squad as an extension of their roster. If they want to use those guys, they have to go on the 53. And then, the same kind of thing. You can only protect a guy in the practice squad from being poached by another team so many times. I believe that's 4 weeks that you can do that. So that you can't just forever stash guys in the practice squad. The practice squad used to be called a taxi squad, and I think it was the Packers. Somebody fact check me on that. There was a team, maybe the old Browns. So there was a team back in the day that the owner also owned a taxi company, and he would just hire the players that he wanted to keep around as taxi drivers so that they could make money in the city and still be there if he wanted them. It was Paul Brown. It was Cleveland Browns in the 40s. Who, just, stuck them on the taxi company. They never, and then they would be there for practice, and it was all legal, as back in the day. Now that would not be, but that's where that came from. And so there's always this sort of back and forth where teams want to find loopholes to keep guys around to have more players than they're supposed to have, and the league makes rules to try to keep them from doing that.
Sure. Absolutely. Actually, we can get to one more here, because Benjamin said this is a Nick Herbig thing, and anytime that we can bring up Nick Herbig, we absolutely should. Know that they've done a lot of 3-edge stuff, especially my mind goes back to 2020 when we saw Bud Dupree, Alex Highsmith, and TJ all on the field at the same time. Do you think that we could see that amount of time, or even more, with how good Nick Herbig has been?
I would. It's pretty matchup dependent. You have to have a team that is going to cooperate's maybe not the right word, but
personnel aligns.
Put personnel out there that's going to align with having 3 outside linebackers on the field. You can't do it against the Bengals, who are going to play with 3 wide receivers all the time and a pretty athletic tight end and a pretty good pass catching running back. It just doesn't work. Baltimore, Cleveland, yeah, absolutely.
The Steelers did. I was going to say, when they had 50%. It was against the Ravens in 2020. Before,
that was the game that Highsmith intercepted Lamar Jackson. That was sort of his coming out party, if you remember.
Yeah.
And so, I think at certain matchups, the Raiders, the Browns, the Ravens. I'm trying to think of the rest of the schedule now to see if I can think of another game that jumps out to me as a team that plays a lot of heavier personnel. Not really finding one, but. Those are the ones where I think you could probably make an impact. Philly, maybe. I don't know. They lost their second tight end. So.
Yeah, and they brought in Jahan Dodson. We might see a lot more 3 receiver and Goddard sets from them. I don't know. Yeah. All right, good stuff. That's it. Alan, tell the people they can find you.
Wait, you got to tease our graphic here.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay. Well, this is one of the places where people can find your work. I'll make it seem like I meant to do that entire thing.
There you go.
Right there. There it is.
Boom, look at that. I sent this to Joe Steigerwald today, and I was like, hey, can you make a graphic for this? He was like, yeah, I guess. I was like, here's what I want it to look like. And I literally sent him like an MS Paint, like notebook here, words here. It was awful. And then he turns it into this, which is beautiful and I love. And
the notebook's nice. That's a nice touch.
Yeah. My handwriting is not that neat. If you remember my tweets from training camp, no, barely legible. The handwriting for my notes from
also the scoop, because you got to take up the space there because south and scoop kind of align well, but side would look really weird unless it was centered. So if you're going to kind of align those S's, you got to have an image there by side. So you put the scooper there.
There you go.
Joe knows what he's doing.
He's pretty good at this.
All right. Well, other than in Southside Scoop, tell the people they can find you.
At @Saunders_PGH on X, Instagram, and TikTok. PGH Steelers Now is the site's account. SteelersNow.com. Sign up for SN Plus so you can read Southside Scoop. Derek Bell's working on something big for the start of next week. That'll be for SN Plus subscribers as well. Also find us on TikTok at Steelers Afternoon Drive. Like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications here on the YouTube channel. You get more from me and Smitty. There's a Beanie Bishop interview up there that you missed if you're not subscribing. There's an episode of Morning Rush where I talked about Brandon Aiyuk up there. If you're not subscribed, don't miss it. Hit the bell. You'll get them all. Little notification. It's awesome. And if you're listening somewhere else, leave us a 5-star review on Google, Apple, Spotify, whatever. That's it.
There you go. You already covered the audio. Normally, I got to jump in there at the end there and say where to find us
today. I don't know. I'll leave
there we go. You find me. You find me everywhere. Alan didn't tell you where to find me, so find me everywhere. Zachary Smith, PGH. But I think that's it. So other than that, for Alan Saunders and myself, thanks for jumping in. Take another ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.